Listen now, we the talk around town. Alex threw the ball to Smokey for a touchdown. It's fourth down and you don't really want no more. We've been winning from the door. You should check the scoreboard. Check the scoreboard.
Welcome back to another episode of the Scoreboard, getting into week 7 of the NFL season 2022. And we have some developments that we need to talk about, both in the MVP variety, the fantasy variety, but especially also our prediction game. Before we do any of that, Smokey, how are you doing and how are we standing?
Oh, man, I am doing better than Packers fans right now. Because it looks really grim for the Packers. They are... They're the new Steelers, because the Steelers are happy they finally got a win. Trubisky came back in and saved the day there over Tom Brady, no doubt. And luckily, those penalties didn't hold them back. But yeah, the Packers look bad, man. It is really dismal right now. As far as our scores, I actually gained one more point on you this past week. We disagreed on the Bengals and Saints, which you won that one. Ravens and Giants. The Giants won again. And the Cardinals and Seahawks, where you had the Cardinals for some reason. Cardinals are horrible. But I got 10 last week. You got 9. Brings our total to 52 each.
So we are tied officially.
Yes.
I've given up the whole lead that I had since week 1. I've completely lost all of it.
Oh, yeah. You had like 5 picks on me at one point.
Yeah. I think after week 1 already, I was ahead by 3 games.
Yes.
And I've squandered all of them.
Yes.
With no one but myself to blame, making picks like Pittsburgh over Buffalo, I guess.
Yeah.
But who would have picked Pittsburgh over Tampa, though?
No, nobody.
That's the other one.
Yeah.
That must have been the upset of the week. That's
you
crazy.
did it 1 week too early.
Yeah. Even though, like, it really seems like the Bucs just can't score. I think that's really the big issue there. They just kicked field goal after field goal. If you score a touchdown against them, like, they'll have a hard time coming back.
Yeah.
If their defense shuts you out, yeah, they'll eventually score on you, but they're not. Like, given the type of names on this offense, they're not clicking. They're not working at all.
Well, Brady can't throw long anymore. Like, he doesn't have the arm. I think his arm is probably done.
Even then, you just get the ball in like people's hands. You have Fournette, you have Mike Evans. They're still a star-studded team. I'm really surprised. I'm really surprised by this.
Yeah.
And they'll have to pick it up for sure. Before we get into predictions, MVP rankings, MVP power rankings, we do them every week now, and nothing much changed at the top for me. Number 1, Josh Allen, still had him number 1 last week, and I will say he's putting a little bit of distance between himself and the field with his closest competitor still being Patrick Mahomes, who he did beat 1-on-1, which was a fantastic game, by the way. After the first quarter, 10 total points were scored, and we felt like nothing's happening at all. What's going on? This should be a shootout. It did become an interesting game at the end, and Patrick Mahomes made probably the worst error we've seen him make all season, with a frankly terrible interception in crunch time and what could have been a game-winning drive. He turned the ball over. Buffalo wins it, and with that, just Josh Allen straight up with the better performance. He's kind of establishing himself as very much the front runner ahead of the field. Mahomes still in second place for me. Lamar Jackson now up to 3, even though the record still doesn't really support it. He's now ahead of Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert, even though he won, did not play a great game. Number 4 is still the surprise of the season, Geno Smith. I don't know what to say. The Seahawks are not losing. They're 3-3. In fact, they're better than Russell Wilson is with his arguably better team. And Geno Smith is top 5 in passer rating, and he's winning games. He's playing well. He has the numbers to show for it. He's on the list. And the way I construct this list is I don't look at career at all. Like, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady are not on this list because they're not 2 of the top 5 quarterbacks this year. They just haven't been. Geno Smith is. And number 5 debut on the list for me, Jalen Hurts. Have him jumping Justin Herbert as well with another win over Dallas. It looked pretty good. And of course, the danger that he adds on the ground, kind of that extra element that some of the other quarterbacks don't have quite as much. So that's my list. Allen, Mahomes, Jackson, Geno Smith, Jalen Hurts, and then in the hunt I have 3 more names that I kind of look at being in the bubble there, so to speak. Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, and Aaron Rodgers. I'm tentatively leaving Tua off of the list because he's missed so much time now. It's very, very hard. I will say he's probably going to come back this week, and if he continues to picks up where he left off, continues to play that way for the rest of the seaon, he'll probably still be in the discussion by the end of it. But if Josh Allen doesn't miss games, I have a very hard time seeing him eclipse Allen at the top there. But the Dolphins should be on the right track with Tua coming back. Not on the list at the moment because he's missed too much time. What are your takes?
Well, I definitely have Allen out in a tier all by himself. He has put quite a bit of distance, especially that win over the Chiefs this week. But Mahomes is right there behind him. It's just a good distance behind. I kind of got a second tier of Mahomes, Hurts, and Cousins all stacked together right there in the middle.
Wow.
And then bringing up the rear, I got Herbert, Lamar, Burrow, Tua, which is coming back. He probably has a really good chance to jet right up to the top. And also Geno, like you said. Now, there is one dark horse. And a lot of things would have to fall in this direction for this to happen. And he's going to have to improve his stats. But Daniel Jones, if he keeps winning and this offense keeps getting better and he starts padding those stats a little bit, he could make a run at this later in the season. But as for right now, Allen is way out ahead of the pack.
I gotta say, you really like putting the name Kirk Cousins on this list, and I get why that is, because you do look at the record of the Vikings, but when normally his numbers generally indicate a better record than the team has, this year the exact inverse is true. Kirk Cousins is 17th in the league in passer rating. He's thrown the 5th most interceptions of any starting quarterback in the league, and his touchdown to interception ratio is below average. It's worse than Trevor Lawrence, for instance, or Carson Wentz. So I don't have Kirk Cousins on the list. I don't have him in the hunt even. Just the individual numbers don't show it. Yeah, the team's winning. I'll give you that. And if he really picks it up and starts rolling, then yes, he'll be in the conversation just because of that. But currently the team is winning more because of Dalvin Cook than Kirk Cousins offensively. And let's not forget, he also has maybe the best tandem of receivers in the league that he's working with. And the defense of the Vikings is also showing up. The numbers just don't say Kirk Cousins to me. He's not in the conversation for me, but I get why, because obviously they are looking pretty good. But the one thing we definitely agree on, Josh Allen's putting distance between himself and anyone else. That I think is no doubt. If I looked at the poll results from last week on our community page, that was pretty well reflected as well. We had the majority of all votes for Josh Allen. In fact, it was something like 70% or even 80% votes for Josh Allen, and I expect it to look similar, if not even more strongly that way this week. The poll is, or the vote is open on our community page, the channel community page. Once again, you can go cast your vote for the current MVP leader after 6 weeks. Who's your MVP? So go ahead and do that. Let us know who you think is currently the MVP in the NFL, and tell us why. But it's time to get into Week 7 here. So starting off with Thursday night, we have the Saints and Cardinals.
Yeah, the Cardinals are bad. No doubt about it at this point. I suspected them of being horrible, that it wasn't just a run of a few games. The Cardinals offense is completely horrible. Like, the only bright spot, I guess, is Kyler's running. He's not connecting downfield nearly as much as he should. The running backs are all beat up, and Benjamin is not going to take you to a Super Bowl or even to the playoffs at this point. Maybe they get some Connor back or something like that to help them. On the other side, Jameis is going to be back, so we expect to see a couple of interceptions here. We expect to see a couple of touchdowns thrown. Either way, that offense, especially with Taysom Hill running in there from time to time to throw or run, either way, throw or run a touchdown in. That offense is much more explosive than the Cardinals, and that's what it's going to come down to. Even on the defensive side, I think outside of Byron Murphy, the Saints have a much better defense than the Cardinals, so I expect the Saints to go down to Phoenix and put one over on the Cardinals.
Man, I still want to keep picking Arizona. That's the thing. I don't know why, because clearly they've shown that they're not very good, but I'm going to put up one more shot. Remember how I wasted all of my my points on the Houston Gamblers in the USFL?
This is how you did
it. This is how I'm doing it. But I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna do it for the following reason: DeAndre Hopkins is back.
That's true.
For the Cardinals, and that is the best player on your team. That is your offense, and I think that's going to make a difference. I'm gonna give the Cardinals one more shot with DeAndre Hopkins over a Saints team that is very average at the moment. They're okay, but they're nothing special. So one more pick for the Cardinals. I don't even know why I picked them. I want them to lose. They're in my division, but I have no explanation for what I'm doing. There we go. I'm taking the Cardinals. Browns at the Ravens.
Yeah, these two teams seem to be on a losing streak at the moment. The Browns got stomped out by the Patriots. That was just a drubbing from start to finish. The Browns couldn't get it rolling. That defense came in and rolled right over them. And the offense got going and beat the stew out of the Browns here. But you have to think they're going to be able to put something together in here. The Giants just put one over on the Ravens, right? And you have a really great running back duo. You have some threats downfield, Amari Cooper and whatnot. You should still be able to score pretty easily on the Ravens, but I think the Ravens at this point are almost in a must-win situation. You would expect the Browns are too, but I think the Browns are expecting by this point their season is not going to end deep into the playoffs. So they're probably looking forward to when Deshaun gets back and how are we going to go forward into next season. So I'm thinking the Ravens try to get back on track and win this one at home.
So I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to agree with your conclusion. And I'm going to say this. I said the Giants got one over on the Ravens. The Giants are a legitimate team. They're 5-1. They're winning games. They're beating serious opponents. The Giants are 100% real. The Browns are not. The Ravens, I have no idea. Sometimes it seems like yes, sometimes it seems like no, but they're competitive. They stuck with the Dolphins. They stuck with the Giants. They stuck with the good teams they've played. So I have to assume the Ravens are a relatively good team. The Browns are not. Okay, Browns are not the Giants. They're not the Dolphins. They're not on that level. Ravens are going to win the game. Lamar Jackson's still playing phenomenally well, even though the record doesn't show or doesn't do justice to how he's been playing. And of course, he had a very critical turnover at the end to lose that game. Not downplaying that at all. But the Browns don't have that type of class, and the Ravens should win it. So taking Baltimore. Bucks at the Panthers.
Both of these teams coming off a loss. It was actually good to see that the refs didn't make sure that Brady won this one, and the Steelers needed that win to feel better about their team up there because they're not used to losing like that. The Bucks should be fired up, like you said earlier. Tom Brady is just not doing it this year. He's like past his prime, I guess. I guess this is that thing we've expected Tom Brady to do for the past 5 or 6 seasons, that we knew it was coming at some point, and here it is. No vertical game to speak of. Lots of short passes behind the line, and he's just getting the ball off quick. He's afraid of sacks and things like that. But on the other side, the Panthers are no world beaters at all. This team is falling apart. This team may end up with the worst record in the entire NFL by the end of the season. They have quarterback problems. They have Robbie Anderson problems. That guy wants off the team, and he is off the team now. He's headed out to Arizona. The team's in disarray. They've got no head coach. They actually have the former Cardinals interim coach here now. But is Jacob Eason going to start? Is Baker Mayfield going to be back? How is that going to play out? There's no doubt the Bucs should win this one on the road.
I agree with your conclusion. Bucks win. I want to take the 30 seconds I have to talk about the Panthers instead. Man, this team is a mess, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And here's my proposition for it. Yes, you just start Jacob Eason. Just start him. He's the one guy who hasn't really gotten a chance. He's the one guy who you really have to find out about if he potentially has what it takes to be a starter. By the end of the season, you're gonna most likely pick a quarterback. You're gonna ship Baker and Sam Darnold off to other teams to officially doomed them to be journeyman forever, most likely. And PJ Walker, who knows? Maybe he'll go back play USFL next year or something. Team is looking bad. Robbie Anderson was gone less than 24 hours after his conflict with the coach on the sideline. And I understand why, because he probably was quite loyal to Matt Rule, former head coach at Temple. Mm-hmm. I get that, but no sign of a 2-game bump, no sign of more positivity with the with the coach being gone. So this team's not looking good. It almost feels the only thing that I feel bad about is that they're wasting a very precious, healthy Christian McCaffrey season, because whenever the Panthers are competitive or have been competitive or close to being competitive over the past years, McCaffrey got hurt a lot, and that really hamstrung them. Now he's healthy and he's playing out of his mind. He's playing at an incredible level, but the team around him, there's no hope. So Buccaneers should win this. The Carolina might not score this entire game, so I'll take Tampa Bay. Falcons at the Bengals.
This is actually a tough one for me to pick because I've seen how good the Falcons can be, albeit a beat-up defense. The Bengals look good. They looked really good against the Saints. That offense looked like the offense of last season. It is explosive, and Burrow looks like he's back on track at this point. Now, they've had a few bad games this season, and I don't know if this is legit. This is going to be them for the rest of the season, or are they going to revert back to that? Maybe it was just a symptom of playing the Saints. However, this is. I want to do it though. I'm just going to be a homer and just hope that my Falcons keep winning somehow. I don't have a lot of faith in it, but I'm really hoping. So I'll pick the Falcons.
So I'll give all the props that I can. For now, Falcons are a better team than I think anyone would have projected before the season. They're legitimate, have an argument to be like an above average team, and they are very legitimately competing for the division, because Tampa Bay is not what they used to be. Like the Saints, we know how volatile they are with the quarterback situation. There's a decent chance that Atlanta can win this division. It's a very legitimate chance, and that's more than we could have said before the season. I will say this though, I think the Bengals they found themselves. I think they're back to who they were. I think they're still a legitimate team. First two games, they played bad, they lost, they were not themselves. I think the Bengals are back to being themselves, and I think they're going to confirm that by winning this game as well, against an opponent that is more than respectable. This is not a pushover by any means. This is a good team, but I think the Bengals will win it, and I think they're going to be back on track to winning their division as well. Lions at the Cowboys.
Yeah. I don't know if the Lions are going to get back on track with their offense after this bye week, after getting just absolutely stomped out by the Patriots. I want to know if the Patriots broke them or not. Now, the Cowboys, I guess we have to wonder who's going to start at quarterback after that loss, which actually they brought themselves, Cooper helped to get them back in the game at the end there. But it was, the undefeated Eagles were just too much for them in the end. I kind of want to see Cooper Rush keep playing. I really do. I want to give it a few more weeks, Wait and see if he can win a few more here. This should be an easy game. I think that defense is really good. The Cowboys' defense is amazing. I'm going to pick the Cowboys to win this one at home. They should put up a ton of points. And if Cooper Rush plays, this might actually give him some momentum heading forward.
I think I'm going to assume that this is probably where they try to get Dak Prescott back in it, and I will also pick Dallas. I really wanted the Cooper Rush storyline to develop. Then he went out against the Eagles and had a passer rating of 1 in the first half.
Yeah,
that is, by the way, like mathematically almost impossible to do. If you just picked up the ball and threw it to the nearest fan in the stands, every single snap, you would have a pass rating of in the 30s somewhere. He had a pass rating of 1 in the first half against Philadelphia. So I think this is where they're going to justify putting Dak back in. Either way, I'm going to say this though, it doesn't matter who plays quarterback for Dallas. They're going to beat the Lions, because the Lions can't stop anything so far. They can put up points now, but they haven't been able to stop anything on defense. They're coming off a bye week, but haven't seen them, really anchor down on defense. I don't think they're going to do it. Dallas should win this. Giants at the Jaguars.
Yeah, my new adopted team here. I think Falcons are still my home team, and then I love the Bills, of course. There's no doubt about that. But now the Giants might be my number 3 team in line here. I have officially adopted them, and Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. Those are my new homies there. The Jaguars are looking bad coming off their loss. They're still capable of putting up points. The offense is not horrible by any means. But the Giants are legit, like we've said on this program here and weeks in the past. The Giants are not only becoming legit, they are legit at this point. They are beating substantial teams, and they should have no problem beating the Jaguars. They're going to go down to Jacksonville and put one over on them, taking the Giants.
So here's what I'm confused about, and I will, of course, agree with you, and I will take the Giants. Before we do this podcast every once in a while, I look over the previous day and check what the odds are, how the betting odds are opening for next weekend. Now Vegas has the Jaguars as a 3-point favorite here. They're playing at home, which means they're saying that on a neutral ground this game's a pick'em.
No way.
Or more or less a pick'em. Do they know something we don't? Like, is Daniel Jones like sick or something? Is he gonna miss a game? Or Saquon Barkley? Because I haven't read anything about it.
Well,
I haven't read anything about it.
Saquon is a little dinged up, but he has been able to finish games in the end, even though he's been in and out of the tent. But maybe they're expecting him not to play. I haven't seen any news updates where he's not expected to play.
I think the only players that could justify this kind of a betting line that would be missing would be Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. Mm-hmm. No one else in the Giants would have that kind of impact, to me, I think. And saying that they are in team equal in strength to Jacksonville, to me, after beating the Ravens to advance to 5-1 is beyond preposterous. I don't understand it. I don't see it. I'm taking the Giants to win. I'm taking the Giants money line, and I'm going to bet substantially on the Giants. Mm-hmm. No financial advice, obviously, but yeah, I'm betting money on the Giants at that line. Colts at the Titans.
I just looked it up as of right now. Saquon has no injury designation. He is tagged completely healthy at this point. So, yeah, I don't know where they're getting that line from. That makes no sense at all. Colts at Titans. This one right here is a toss-up. So maybe this is one where you need 3 points to the home team here. The Colts are coming off of a big win. They looked good, and Matt Ryan pulled it out in the end against the Jaguars. And I want to say the Jaguars actually beat the Colts twice last season, and that was their only wins, if I remember right. It was something like that. I know they had 2 wins last season. And now it looks like the Colts are dominating the Jaguars again. The Titans, though, they're coming off their bye week. They should be rested up. Derrick Henry's going to be ready to go. They have a really good offense at times. And, at the beginning of the season, they couldn't get it going. But they have in their recent games. And coming off of a bye, I'm going to give the 3 points to the home team and take the Titans here.
I will agree with that. Coming off the bye week, I think they should be refreshed. Now, I will say the Colts have really caught themselves after a bad start, which is a mirror of their last season. Because remember, last season they also started 1-4 or something, and then came back to 8-8 and ended up missing the playoffs last second. But with a terrible loss against Jacksonville, worst team in the league. But I think they've caught themselves. I think they'll be looking better. Matt Ryan had his best game so far as a Colt in a come from behind win. I'm still taking Tennessee. I think they'll be more rested coming off the bye week, and I've seen the Colts occasionally struggle with stopping the run, which seems to be the bread and butter for the Titans offense whenever Derrick Henry's healthy. So I'm going to give the nod to the Titans, though I will say this is one of the closer games. And this is, by the way, this is a pick'em, and this is a good pick'em as opposed to the Giants and Jags. This one is actually an even
yes.
Playing field. Packers at the Washingtons.
Speaking of pick'em, look at this. No one would have thought that this would be a pick'em right here. I don't know what Vegas says, but in my mind, this right here, the Packers being on the road as bad as they've been playing, and the Commanders starting Taylor Heineke, which maybe even be a step up over Carson Wentz at this point, especially with the thumb injury. This should be a pick'em, in my opinion. It's really crazy to think that's a possibility, but it isn't. They just seem like... I'm having a hard time picking which one. I'm going to go with the rule that you never bet against Aaron Rodgers, even though that has failed us many times so far this season. I'm going to stick with that and say that Tyler Heineke coming off the bench is not going to get this team rolling. They're pretty bad. That Thursday night game was horrible, so I'll stick with the Packers.
The reason that the Packers lost last year in the playoffs against 49ers eventually, and their weakness all season was that they had the worst special teams unit in the NFL. And the Packers still have the worst special teams unit in the NFL. And if you're going to get a punt blocked for a touchdown in any game, you're probably losing that game. It doesn't matter if it's the Jets or if it's against a legitimate team in the playoffs. The Jets might be a legitimate team this year. But this is going to be something that's going to hang on the Packers for as long as this is the case. They're not going to a Super Bowl. They're not going to a Super Bowl like this. You cannot have the worst at like any unit. You can't have the worst offense, the worst defense, the worst special teams. You can't have anything in the bottom five. It's just going to be too much when you're playing against the all-around strong teams, and that's what the Packers are dealing with. That's what they're dealing with, and the offense hasn't been able to bail them out as much as Aaron Rodgers has been doing that over the past 2 years, earning back-to-back MVPs. He hasn't this year. He's also not in the top 5 for my MVP power rankings at the moment. Definitely playing below his level, but ultimately the Packers are too weak in other spots. All that being said, this is not a pick'em. I don't think it should be a pick'em, and it's not, luckily. The Packers still very much are favored, and I also personally still pick the Packers to win this because Washington is not your average team. You can say that the Packers are an average team. Washington is way below average at this point. They're in the argument for a bottom 5 team, which the Packers, for all intents and purposes, should beat, and I will trust Aaron Rodgers to get that done, even at Washington. Jets at the Broncos.
Wow. So what if I told you before the season started that we would be heading into week 7, and amongst the 2 New York teams, there's only 3 losses to be found? That you'd be like, no, 3 wins, right? You couldn't be. A 4-win and a 5-win New York team going into week 7, that's ridiculous, but here we are. The Jets might be legit, like you said. Now, on the other hand, the Broncos, what everybody thought was going to be legit in that division, is kind of falling apart. I mean, I guess the Chiefs are still kind of holding it up along with what the Chargers are doing, but not nearly as strong as everybody thought that division was going to be. Might be time to look at the AFC East as a really tough division because all of these teams are right now looking like they have playoff aspirations and they could possibly get there. We'll have to see how it shakes out. Now, the Jets and the Broncos, I'm going to just go with what's working and just say the Jets are going to roll down to Denver and beat the Broncos here.
So I just mentioned the worst, worst defense in football, the Lions, worst special teams in football, the Packers. The worst offense in football is currently being operated by Russell Wilson, and it's the Denver Broncos, by any metric that you want to pull up. And they're 2-4. Yeah, you could argue they could be 4-2 if overtimes went their way, but they're not 4-2. They're 2-4, and they're playing horribly offensively. They're not producing. Geno Smith is outplaying Russell Wilson on every level right now in Seattle compared to Russell Wilson in Denver. And the Jets are looking good. They went into Green Bay and they beat Aaron Rodgers, and they played lights out on defense. They played lights out on special teams and made the big plays, and they're on a winning streak. Zach Wilson, when called upon, is making the plays he needs to make. And the Jets are winning games. So yeah, the Jets go into this. They should be favored. Now, what I really liked is that my bookie website of trust is not giving odds. They're having the line locked for this one. So I don't know if they can't decide. Maybe they can't decide themselves what they're supposed to do with this. But I'm gonna estimate that like in Denver, the Jets may be like 1 or 2 point favorites, or that's at least how I would put it, or maybe close to pick them because they are in Denver and the home field advantage in Denver is a bit larger than for some other teams. But I'm gonna pick the Jets as well. Yeah, Jets should win it. They're the better team so far. They've shown it. Texans at the Raiders.
Yeah, both of these teams are coming off of a bye here, so they should both be rested up. And in that situation, I just have to go with who has the more explosive offense. And right now, it just happens to be the Raiders. Texans have a really promising running back with Dameon Pierce, though, and that guy's going to be special in the future. If they can lock down a decent quarterback in the next draft, they should have a bright future, hopefully. Get a few more wide receivers out there. But right now, the Raiders, they went all in on this season, hoping to make a deep run into the playoffs. They definitely spent the money for Devontae Adams and whatnot, and so far it hasn't paid off. They've been in games. They just can't win them in the end, but this should be an easy one for them to win at home. So going with Las Vegas here.
Is this our first official tank bowl of the season?
Oh, it might be.
this could be it, right?
I don't think the Raiders are ready to tank, though. The Texans, yes. I don't. Even though the Raiders probably should be, I think in their minds they're probably thinking they're still in this. Yes.
Yeah, you're right about that. It is a tank bowl objectively, but the Raiders don't believe it yet. Mm-hmm. I think that's what's currently going on. They have a big hole to dig themselves out of because the Chiefs and Chargers are gonna keep winning. They're gonna keep winning. The Broncos are underperforming, but the others are not. So I will agree with you on one thing, which is that the Raiders are gonna win this game, and they better win this game, by the way, because looking at power rankings, I'm gonna keep bringing it up because it's simply ridiculous. The Raiders are 16th in power rankings. That is the exact average in the league. Behind the Raiders, let me emphasize this. Here are teams that are behind the 1-4 Raiders in the power rankings. The 3-3 Patriots, the 3-3 Giants, the 3-3 Seahawks, the 3-2-1 Colts, and the 3-3 Miami Dolphins are behind the Raiders in power rankings right now. How does that happen? Seriously, how does that happen? No, not the Giants.
Oh, what was
the Giants are ahead of them.
What was the second 3-3 team?
The Falcons.
Oh, Falcons. Okay.
Patriots, Falcons, Seahawks, and Colts, and Dolphins. All 3 win teams.
All of those should be ahead of the Raiders, in my opinion.
Is there any of those 3 teams that you would not take to beat the Raiders handily? One-on-one at this point.
Oh, definitely. I would take all of them to beat the Raiders at this point. Like I said, the Raiders can stay in games, but they can't win in the end. And we saw all of those teams you just mentioned have explosive games, and they are more than staying in the games that they're losing. Yeah.
I 100% agree. Raiders are 7-point favorites, which may be a bit much, to be honest, but they should be favored because the Jets are probably on a different level of bad. I'm gonna pick the Raiders, but they better win if they want to justify this ranking. Seahawks at the Chargers.
Yeah, well, the Seahawks continue to win somehow. And, like you said, Geno Smith is putting up numbers. Now, his numbers did come down. It wasn't quite as explosive a week as he had in the few weeks past, but they are still finding a way to win. Makes me wonder, seeing how bad Russell is playing, is it really just the coach? Is it Pete Carroll? Is he the one that's been behind all of those Russell Wilson wins and the Super Bowl win all of those years? And Russell may not have been the guy we thought he was. He was a third-round pick now. But back to the Seahawks. The Chargers, it was an ugly game against the Broncos, which Broncos has a decent defense. And so it makes it a little tough. You know what? I got to go with the better overall team, in my opinion. And the Chargers being at home just puts it over the line. I'll take the Chargers.
I do agree with that as well. Chargers to beat Seattle. It's going to be closer than we thought, maybe, at the start of the season. We didn't give Seattle much credit. And, these are 2 good quarterbacks. These are 2 very good quarterbacks playing against each other right now. One of them is Geno Smith, by the way, which... But it's true. So, taking the Chargers to win, trusting Herbert, trusting the offense, and trusting the pass rush. But Seattle's dangerous. They are. They're a decent team. But they sometimes do show weaknesses. They show weak points. I think overall they're probably a less talented roster than the Chargers, which gives them the advantage. But look for it being a close one. Chiefs at the Niners.
Man, this is going to be tough for you, I bet. I got to go with what I saw on the field last week, and that was the Chiefs hanging in there until the very last second against the best team in the entire league, and the 49ers being as banged up as they are, getting beat, I would say substantially. And it was only 2 touchdowns, but considering it was the Niners versus the Falcons, that's a substantial loss right there. So I gotta say that the Chiefs come to town and put down the 49ers for this one. I don't see any reason why the Chiefs should lose this.
Yeah, the Niners were getting beat bad. Like at times, if you looked in the standing throughout most of the game was closer than what the game actually was, because the Falcons were the clearly better team for, I want to say, 55 minutes. There's that one period where San Francisco scored back-to-back touchdowns to draw even, but it was not. Those were not equal teams at all. And San Francisco came into the game with 4 out of their 11 starting defenders in the field, one of which got hurt in the first quarter, and then was kind of in and out of the lineup. So there's hope, or they're expecting to have both Trent Williams and Nick Bosa back for this game, which would be a substantial addition to the team. But the defense is still very banged up. There's still rookies starting at cornerback. There's still third string defensive linemen. At one point this game, the entire starting defensive line was out. When Samson Ebukam got hurt, that is the entire starting defensive line, which is the heart and soul of this team. They live by their pass rush, rushing 4 guys and getting home. That's how they win games. If you don't have that, it's very, very hard to compete. Now, Bosa being back is going to help that substantially, but still, I'm going to go with Kansas City and say they should win, because this defense is still going to be too banged up, I think, to compete with such a high-powered offense. If this was like Arizona or like the Jets or something, maybe I would pick the Niners to win in a close one. But it's Kansas City, they're a top 5 team, and they're healthier, and their offense is explosive, and they should have a bad matchup. The Niners should, with how injured they are. So I don't think that the offense can necessarily stick with Kansas City, so I'll take the Chiefs to win it. Steelers at the Dolphins.
Well, the Steelers got that win, but unfortunately, you're still running the gauntlet of some of the best teams in the NFL right now, and Tua coming back. So that's going to give the Dolphins a big boost that they needed over starting the backup and the third stringer the past couple of weeks. Hopefully these concussions don't keep happening. We're starting to see that on other teams also, where just this concussion thing is piling up, and guys are getting pulled out of games for multiple games at this point. The protocol has changed. You want to say that the Steelers with Trubisky looked better than Pickett, at least in that game, but that may just be one of those, fresh guy coming off the bench just happened to be able to put up a few. But isn't it Pickett's got the concussion also, right? So this probably will be Trubisky starting this game. So I'm going to take the returning Tua over the returning Trubisky.
Yes, I agree with that fully. The Dolphins are 3-0 when Tua starts, 0-3 when he doesn't start. He's going to be back this week. They really took their time. Well, they're not 3-0 when he doesn't start. He technically started against the Bengals, but then Teddy came in halfway through the game. So he's going to be back this week, and I expect him to be close to back to what they were, which is a deadly offense. And I think Pittsburgh, although they beat Tampa Bay, and they beat Tampa Bay largely with their defense, Miami's a better team, and with Tua back in the lineup, they should win it, and I agree with that. Bears at the Patriots.
Well, the Bears are bad. They're just bad. At times, I thought there was hope for them. They could not get that offense going. I understand that it's a Thursday night island game, and a lot of times, more times than not, those Thursday night island games are just stinkers. They're boring. Not a lot of scoring. I don't even know why that is. Maybe it's the short week that causes that. Maybe it's the entire world watching because we're getting toward the weekend and we're ready for some football. But either way, they played horribly, and the Commanders were no better. On the other side, the Patriots completely stomped out the Browns, like I said earlier. And the Patriots are looking up. It doesn't seem to matter which quarterback is out there. This defense is controlling games, and when you get the ball back for your offense, they have many tries to actually put points on the board, and they are doing that, led by Ramondre Stevenson and Harris when he's out there, which he may be back this week also. I'm going to take the Patriots to win this one at home.
And once again, I agree with you. We don't have a lot of disagreements this week at all, because a lot of these seem quite one-sided. Yeah, the momentum is very much with the Patriots. They've won 2 very good games. Bailey Zappi's been playing. He's been playing very good. Like, he may have himself a starting job somewhere next year if he keeps showing like that. Someone might pick him up. He's looking good. So I'm gonna go keep taking New England. Chicago again. The offense is historically bad. It's historically bad. This Bears offense is. So along with the Broncos as well. This may be the second worst offense in the league. they're not getting anything done. And going against Bill Belichick is not a recipe for success in turning that around. Usually for struggling offenses, we've seen it with the Browns, who got completely destroyed. The Lions got shot out, completely destroyed. Patriots are on a run. They're looking good, so I'm going to take them to win this one, improve to a winning record, and they have to. They need it too, by the way, because the division's tough. Suddenly, we know the Bills are arguably the best team in the league. The Dolphins with Tua back are going to be a dominant team, and the Jets are winning games. So this division's good. This division's suddenly very good. The Patriots need to win these kinds of games. So far, they have against inferior competition. Bears certainly are inferior competition, and they have to win the game, and I believe that they will. So that is our picks. Teams on bye. A lot of good teams on bye this week. Top record teams: Eagles, Bills, and Vikings, who all combined have only lost one game, and then the LA Rams are also on bye. So we're going to be missing a lot of very strong teams this week. Yeah, no Josh Allen. He's going to get a break.
That's really tough for fantasy this week.
Yes, I can imagine. There's a lot of high scoring guys. Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs is out, AJ Brown's out.
Oh man,
Cooper Kupp is out. Good God.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts. Oh wow, I've got some teams that are going to be devastated this week.
There's a lot of receivers missing. A lot of receivers scoring. Crazy. All right, that's our picks. That is week 7. Let us know yours in the comments. Anything you disagree on wildly, and also if you can solve this Giants Jacksonville mystery for us, like how are the Jaguars favorite in this game? Is there some news that, like, at time of recording this, which is Tuesday afternoon, we don't know, or is there just are the betting odds just insane? I don't get it. I don't get how the Jags are favorite. I understand. Please enlighten us if you have information in the comments. Do you have anything to add? Actually, that is not the line. The line is first, can we have an insight into the fantasy world of things?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we should do in weeks like this, where we are missing a lot of the top players at every position right now. It's going to be a tough week, but also I want to focus on more keep, trade, cut. I tried to get to it last week, but I ran out of time, so I'm going to dedicate a whole game theory portion of the show to keep, trade, cut this week and go through that.
Yeah, I'm very interested in actually on like what happens if a lot of good players are out. Like this bye week, there's so much star potential. It's interesting because you would think like, okay, it's kind of a down week for fantasy football, but at the end of the day, it counts just the same, right? The win you win this week is just as valuable as a win with all of them on the field. So you have to find a way to replace these guys, and this affects every team across the league in fantasies. There's some strategy there to be seen. So if you're a fantasy player, you have to tune into that. The Hurry Up Offense coming up just after this podcast on this channel. Subscribe if you do not want to miss it. Professional fantasy advice from Smokey right there for completely free. Definitely worth a watch for just 10 minutes. And now I'm going to ask, do you have anything to add for these predictions?
No, I think that's it for this week.
All right, drop us a like on the video, and we're going to see you in the next one.
Doses.
Check.